I had gone through a lot of programs at the VA. I had been in one-on-one therapy with a psychologist, and then from there my psychologist had switched me to a doctor down at the VA, and I was in one-on-one counseling with her. I had been in many groups, different kind of groups, to try to treat my post-traumatic stress disorder and my military sexual trauma. And none of these things, none of these things ever really helped. I was on different types of medications as a group. And just before I went to Disabled Veteran, I was on 21 different medications for the military sexual trauma and post-traumatic stress disorder. And none of these things were ever an answer to any of the problems. Right after getting out of the military, I had 3 serious suicide attempts, which those obviously didn't work because I'm here today. And that led me into the disease of alcoholism and addiction, and I pursued that for many years. And finally, I gave up that after I literally died from the alcoholism and addiction, and I now have 22 years clean and sober through 12-step programs. But the last 6 months prior to going to Disabled Veteran was probably the darkest spot in my life. I was actually terrified to go because I knew I had to stay 3 weeks in a hotel room by myself. And that was always a fear of mine, staying alone. I would never leave home alone. I always wanted somebody to go with me. And, that fear of going out there and staying 3 weeks alone was just crippling and terrifying for me. And I would call Bahesha, and I can remember calling her and just begging her to let somebody go with me, for the 3 weeks. And I said, it won't cost Disabled Veteran anything. I'll pay for their flight out. I'll pay for their meals, and, I'll cover everything. Just let them go with me. And she said, absolutely not. You have to do this by yourself. And that first day at class was the day that we met our dogs. And that's the day I met Reddy. And I mean, it was just, meeting him. And because I had been watching, on the internet as he was growing up. And, so I knew of him. And then after I knew that I was getting him, I continued watching, on the Facebook page and on the internet. I continued watching him, and, but meeting him that first day was like, I can't explain it. And then, we went to class that day, and he laid underneath my table, and, and we had interaction, and I had to take him outside and bring him back in. And then that night, we had to leave him at the center. And then the 6th day, we were on a piece of agility equipment, and it was like this wide, and it kind of went up and over and back down. And he had been out there, with them for so long. He was like the old man of the group out there, and he was like a pro on the equipment. And, he started up on it, and he got going across it, and he was almost running, and I was having, a hard time keeping up with him, and it was the leg of the equipment, I think, is what I tripped on. And it just seemed like the more I was trying to catch my balance, the faster I got going, and I face planted into the wall at the end. And then, the next thing I know, I was flat out like a pancake, and Bahesha and Michelle and all the veterans come running over. And the next thing I know is all I hear is Bahesha, like, Debbie, can you get up? And I'm like, and I think she pretty much thought I was going to be unconscious as hard as I hit, but I suffered a major concussion, a deviated septum, I think they call it, but the middle part of your nose there was deviated. And I was pretty hurt, and she says, I think you need to go to the VA, because, there was major bleeding from my nose. And I'm like, I don't want to go to the VA. And then after they got me up, they made me go to the Marion VA there in Illinois, and I went. and they told me that I had to stay down for 48 hours. So it was like 4 o'clock, I got back to my hotel room, and I was down for 48 hours, and she wouldn't let me have Reddy. So I couldn't have him in my hotel room. She took him back to the center. And so when I went back to the center, or back to the training center, it was like the third morning after that, she called me into the office and she told me that the board had voted, and that they had voted that I wasn't going to be able to take Reddy home. And I mean, that just devastated me, because she said the reason being why the board voted that way is because the first week I had done no work, and that the program was only 3 weeks long. And that basically the first week was a waste for me. And I started to, I mean, it wasn't just a cry, I started to sob. And I took my finger like this and I pointed it at her, and as I'm sobbing, I said, I'm going to prove you and that board wrong. I said, and I didn't say that dog or anything like that, I said, my dog's going home with me. You know, and I knew that I had a lot of work cut out for me, you know, because I was pretty sick when I went out there, you know, not really so much physically, even though that first week I would come into class in the morning and I would actually get nauseous and vomit, you know, just from the fear, the anxiety, just physically made me that sick that I would vomit. You know, and it was like the second morning in class, she said to me, she says, Debbie, she says, you know that bags we gave you that you carry your books in? Why don't you carry an extra shirt in there so that when you get sick in the morning, instead of going in the bathroom and trying to scrub your shirt, you know, clean, you can just change your shirt. And I thought, well, you know, that's really a smart idea. You know, but that's just, you know, that's just how sick I was, that I would be basically up all night from not being able to sleep, from being alone in the hotel room, sick all day from just the nauseous and the throwing up, and tired that, you know, I'd lay on the desk, it's like a table, I'd lay on the table and the other veterans would be going, Debbie, you need to wake up and listen. I'd go, yeah. And then I'd fall asleep, you know, because I just was so tired, you know, and I'd try to listen to the best I could, you know, and the other vets, I'm telling you, were just trying to help me, you know, because they knew the shape I was in, you know, so really the first week was just a waste, you know, and I couldn't disagree with her, I had to agree with her. You know, but yeah, I really wanted to help. You know, so when I came back and she told me what she told me, and I looked at her and I pointed and I said what I said, I meant it. Because I didn't want to go back, I didn't want to come back home as sick as I was when I went out there. You know, so I made up my mind, and actually the 48 hours that I was down in the hotel, I was actually thinking, you know, about the time that was such a waste, and knowing that I didn't want to go back home sick. You know, and I really started praying and, you know, and asking God to help me, you know, to get me through the next 2 weeks, because I didn't want to go back to shape, you know, back home the shape that I went out there in. You know, so, you know, I buckled down and I started to really, you know, if you say apply yourself, or, you know, started to do the work, you know, and I guess, you know, somehow, you know, whether he changed me or gave me comfort enough to sleep, you know, I don't know what it was, but I started to sleep better at night, you know, so I was more rested during the day to do the work I had to do, and that's where the work began, as during my second and third week. The second and third week, Bahesha actually made us start doing some things by ourselves. I think it was actually more like started into the third week. She made us start doing some things by ourselves. She actually made me go get a haircut by myself, and it was actually in preparation for graduation. So Reddy and I had to take the van. There was a dealer out there that loaned the group of veterans a van to get back and forth from the hotel to the training center. So after class one night, she made me take the van and Reddy and go get a haircut by myself. So that was one of the first times that him and I did anything by ourselves. And that was quite an experience. And then after I got home, you know, there was a few things that, it was close to Veterans Day when I got home, you know, and Veterans Day morning, him and I went out to breakfast by ourselves, you know, so things started progressing. And then I went to a spiritual retreat in Northern Virginia after dark. That was the thing. It was after dark. I had to drive to McLean, Virginia, up 95 by myself. And prior to October, I would have made up all these excuses on why I couldn't do it. I got to go up 95. I might have a flat tire. If I have to have a flat tire, I have to pull off the side of 95. A, B, and C might happen. And it would have crippled me enough that I plain wouldn't have gone. Reddy and I have been to Raleigh, to a speaking engagement. We've been to Charlotte, North Carolina, to an NBA basketball game. I, in turn, have made a decision that I'm going to move into a motorhome and start traveling to just spread word that there's a need for funding for these service dogs, because he's just made such an impact on my life. And it's not only the service dog, it's a package deal at Disabled Veteran. If I had gone out to Disabled Veteran and they just handed me a service dog and sent me back to Fredericksburg, Virginia, I don't believe in my heart of hearts it would have worked. Or if I'd gone to Disabled Veteran and they just put me through a trauma resiliency program and didn't give me Reddy, I don't think it would have worked. I believe it's a combination of the two things together. They made me go through a trauma resiliency program that made me deal with my military sexual trauma issues, which caused my post-traumatic stress disorder. They made me hit those things head on, that, you know, I'm only as sick as my secrets. And I held those secrets in for 38 years, which made me a real sick lady. You know, it just kept snowballing over the years and kept building up, which caused me to be as sick as I believe I was. So therefore, that's what the trauma resiliency program made me address. And then Reddy, you know, addresses the other issues as far as giving me somewhat, if you want to call me a security blanket or whatever, and then the other issue of my degenerative disc disease, which he's trained in to do so well. So the combination of the package deal is what gives me the ability, you know, to do what I'm doing today, you know, as far as, so that's what I'm doing. I'm moving into a motorhome, you know, because there's no funding for these dogs. You know, Disabled Veteran has over, when I was out there, it was right around 300 or a little bit over vets on a waiting list. Now the number is over 400 on a waiting list. Each class size is 6 to 7 veterans, and they're only able to have a class every 6 to 7 months because the cost of these dogs is like $25,000 on an average apiece. So if you do the numbers, you know, I don't see them ever dwindling down that list as fast as the list is growing. You know, so what my heart's desire is to get out there and spread the word, the need of these service dogs, you know, because he totally changed my life. I couldn't have got into a motorhome and traveled by myself prior to October. You know, I never would have thought of it. It wouldn't have ever been a desire of mine. And I don't think God would have ever put that on my heart. You know, because I never could have even begun to fulfill his will. You know, I would have put the brakes on and said, no way, God. You know, and would have fought it all the way. So, you know, he's just totally given me a 180-degree turn and change in my life.
Okay.
And then there's Reddy, and he's trained to alert me for anxiety attacks, panic attacks, turn lights on and off, open refrigerators, open and close doors, take my socks off, wake me up from nightmares. And, you know, so like I said, I couldn't have done it with just one part or the other part of the program. It takes both parts, you know, him and the trauma resiliency program, you know. So, you know, I'm just grateful that, you know, Disabled Veteran was there for me, you know, to just give me that 180-degree turn and give me my life back, because, you know, I've got a life beyond my wildest dreams now. You know, when I came into the 12-step program, they told me I was going to have a life beyond my wildest dreams. But it's been a, you know, this is the thing, is it's the 22 years I have, it's been like a roller coaster. It's been ups and downs, ups and downs, and ups and downs. But, you know, I can truly say today that I've got a life beyond my wildest dreams. You know, I don't have any restrictions. You know, if I want to go here, I go there. If I want to do this, I do that. I don't have to call one of my grandchildren and say, do you want to go with me here? Or do you want to go with me there? You know, if I want to go to the movies by myself today, I can go to the movies. You know, if I want to go shopping, I can go shopping. If I want to go out to eat, I can go out to eat. You know, you know, I think I could almost cry the first time I went out to eat by myself, or the first time I did anything by myself back here in Fredericksburg. You know, and nobody can nobody can understand unless you've been there, you know, and it almost feels like a hostage in your home when you got to call one of your kids or one of your grandkids or one of your friends to do something with you because you want to do it. You want to go shopping and you can't go shopping because you can't do it by yourself. Or you want to go to the movies and you can't do it because you can't do it by yourself because of the fear of something happening to you, or the fear, you know, of you know, somebody coming upon you, or you know, just that hostage type feeling, you know, and unless you've been there, you don't understand, you know, and it's just like your life. I guess when Bahesha told me, when I graduated with Reddy, and Bahesha told me, "Welcome home, Debbie," was the first time that I felt like I'd been home since I joined the military and since I walked out of the military. Because that's where I feel like I lost my life, is in the military. That's where I feel like I lost my life. Even though I didn't die, but I lost the life as I knew it, was when I was in active duty military. That's where I feel like I lost my life as I knew it. You know, but when I graduated from disabled veteran and she said, "Welcome home," was the first time I feel like I've been home. And you know, that's why they say the journey home. And the side of his vest says, the journey home. You know, because you're on the journey back home. You know, and like I said, it's the first time I felt like, you know, I've been welcomed back home. To the home that I left and the home, you know, that I know now. Thanks.